Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at Disney Plus, and I'm joined by Hannah, who has worked on a number of different Disney Plus series, including Obi-Wan Kenobi, Willow, and the brand new series of Muppet Mayhem. So, Hannah, could you give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and what you do on these shows?
Hi, I'm Hannah Friedman. I'm a writer, co-executive producer. I also wrote the theme song of Muppets Mayhem, so I'm very excited for everyone to listen and rock out to that. I wrote on 2 episodes of Obi-Wan and also 2 episodes of Willow.
Let's go. I literally just had, and I'm not kidding, I did just have Rock On just before. I just kind of like get it. I was like, yeah, it was like, yeah, I'm gonna get into it, but like that's quite a range, kind of jumping from like Star Wars over to the Muppets. What was it like? What's the kind of the difference in kind of working on this kind of like basically going on to like the Muppets?
The Muppets is pure joy and chaos. And that was just so exciting. And I with all three of those shows have so much nostalgia for me. So it really was just like kind of channeling my inner kid for all of them in different fun ways.
And you worked as you said on the theme song for Muppets Mayhem. How do you kind of go about writing a song for the Muppets? Because I imagine that's a little bit different than anything else.
I am so obsessed with Muppets music, and I used to listen to it in the car when I was a kid. Anyone drove, and Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. They're such a seminal band, and we love Can You Picture That? And this whole season was about them finding their sound and releasing their first album. And so I listened to a lot of influences, like a lot of Muppet music, and also Dr. John, like a lot of cool New Orleans jazz, just to get a vibe and feel what they were grooving on. And then I jammed out with my wonderful producer and co-writer Dan, and we just had such a blast. And it was fun because I had been in the writer's room, so I kind of knew the vibe of the band. And Bill Beretta, who's one of the co-creators who plays the voice of Dr. Teeth, was in the room. So we were always hearing him, pitching his jokes and talking about what Dr. Teeth would be fantabulating about. So we had a good sense of what the wavelength that the band was on. So it came out really easy.
And it's been a huge success, but been done really well on vinyl and been huge in the Billboard shows. How did it feel, kind of having that much kind of success for the music?
What a gift, like what a childhood dream. And the vinyl is so cool. If people are Muppet fans, you can get the vinyl at Target, and it has this awesome album artwork, and it's Kermit the Frog green, the vinyl itself, and it's just so cool. And our other co-creators, Adam Goldberg and Jeff Yorks, they joked that this was a very long way to get the goal of having Dr. Teeth release an album. To make a whole TV show and produce it over multiple years. But they did it. And so if you dig the band, you can hear them sing all kinds of songs on that vinyl.
Yeah, no, it's a really fun show. But what was kind of your biggest highlight working on the show overall?
I think doing that theme song was the biggest highlight for sure. And then another fun day was I got to be, I won't spoil it, but Janice becomes a thought leader, and I got to join her cult on screen in the last episode, and that was very, very exciting to get to perform with a Muppet on screen. There's nothing better.
I must be like, I remember a few years ago we was at like Walt Disney World and saw like Kermit and like on the stage at the top, and and obviously seeing a Muppet in person for the very first time. My wife was like looking at him and going, "You're like 40 years old, and like you're like look," and I was just like, "It's a Muppet, it's a real Muppet."
It's truly magic. It really is magic in front of your eyes, and even hundreds of times and knowing all the lines and seeing them build the sets, it's still, when you walk onto the set and you see when they call action and you see those guys perform, the level of performance and transportiveness is just amazing. And that's why the brand has lived on for so many decades. It's just there's something that transforms you to a kid no matter how old you are. And yeah, those performers, just getting to talk to them and work with them, like Dave Goles, who plays Gonzo, and many other famous characters. he was telling me that his first puppeteering venture, he would go into kindergarten classes and do the puppeteering. And the teachers would always say, let's write a thank you note to Mr. Goals. And the kids would say, who? Like they didn't even realize that this man sitting next to the puppet was there because it's so magical. So
that's cool. What was kind of the biggest challenge working on the Muppets Mayhem?
Just living up to the legacy. You know, Jim Henson is one of the greatest creators, I think, in modern media. And we really love these characters, and there's so much latitude of what to do with them. So we just wanted to really make sure that the fans felt like the characters were honored and like the humor was what you expect from a Muppets property. And also that we were doing something new and exciting.
That's cool. And sort of moving on from there onto something that's like, you know, an even bigger franchise. How did it feel kind of working on Obi-Wan Kenobi? How did you feel like the fact that you're kind of working on a Star Wars show?
The pressure of that was really immense because, you know, Star Wars is just legendary. So I was very intimidated and nervous to write for those characters. And they're so well established, and people have such strong personal relationships to Obi-Wan and to Darth Vader and to Princess Leia. There's a lot of pressure that I felt to just make sure that it lived up to that.
That's cool. What was your biggest highlight working on Obi-Wan Kenobi?
My biggest highlight was writing the character Freck. He's the mole truck driver in episode 3 or 4. That was a really big highlight. And getting to work with, there's a theme here of puppets. Ewan McGregor was on set, and he's incredible and so talented. And I was very excited to see him, but I was even more excited to see the mole puppet and all the individuated little moley tendrils that they had built for his nose when he was like excited or like whispering and inquisitive. That was a real trip to like think of that character and then have these amazing technicians build and puppeteer him. Was just wild.
Yeah, I would go back at Star Wars Celebration this year. There was a big stage, and we're watching it, and you got to see them kind of creating the costumes and like the characters and how they did it, and it was fascinating being able to watch them in person, kind of doing it. So, and again, seeing Ewan McGregor was kind of definitely a highlight for me. But what was the biggest challenge for you with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series?
Well, it was challenging because it was during COVID, so it's not a traditional shoot. Ordinarily, there would be just a lot more co-mingling, but because it was still the height of COVID, that was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, it's good. And another big show that you worked on was Willow, which they filmed. Were you able to come out to Wales, over to the UK to help on that show, or are you still out in America?
I didn't shoot for Willow. I had already jumped onto Obi-Wan while Willow was shooting, but yeah, that was a really wonderful production to work on. And Bob Dolman, who wrote the original movie, was in the room, and so just to have him, his knowledge and his love of the franchise and his understanding of George Lucas and Ron Howard, who he created the story with, it was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Willow was a really great show, and yeah, it's just kind of one of the things. Again, with that one there, what was there a lot more pressure on with it, Willow being something that had been out so long before, and you needed to do a lot of like to get it ready for like the 21st century?
Willow had much more flexibility than Star Wars because there was just that one movie. Star Wars has this massive canon and so many movies and ancillary series and, you know, comic books and the Clone Wars and all these things. So Willow, we had a lot more flexibility, and the thing we talked about a lot on Willow was the humor, because it is a big fantasy series, and that is something we loved about the original movie, which I rented at Blockbuster over and over again. But the comedy between Warwick and Val is so strong that we really wanted to make sure that in a modern sensibility. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that it was a really great show. Unfortunately, at the minute, obviously, we can't watch it, but hopefully, maybe at some point, it might turn up somewhere else to be able to be watched. But I want to ask as well, with regards to, is there any other like Disney Plus projects you can tell us you're maybe working on in the future?
Oh, well, nothing's happening right now, but I love so many of those properties that I grew up on. So I would be delighted to develop
Yeah, and
things.
I was going to say you've worked on the Muppets, you've worked on Star Wars, and well, did you want to maybe like kind of go for the big one and go for Marvel as well?
I do love Marvel. I definitely would be excited to find something in that universe. Yeah, and it's just all of these are such great playgrounds, and the people who work there are so passionate about the properties and the projects. So it's really a gift. And I know this is not Disney, but seeing something like Barbie is so inspiring because it's something everyone's heard of, and it's just so elevated and contemporary and exciting. And so I think there's a lot more to be
Yeah.
done in all of these franchises.
And yeah, there's so many out there. It's great to see kind of different ones getting some highlights and stuff. But again, thank you so much for that one. But before we go, I'm just going to ask the question I asked to everyone. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to disqualify the Muppets Mayhem, Willow, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and ask you
Ooh.
what has been your favorite Disney Plus original so far?
I loved She-Hulk, Jessica Gow's show, She-Hulk, very exciting. Other originals on Disney Plus. I think I mean obviously The Mandalorian, incredible. Does that count?
Yeah. You can go with the Mandalorian. You can see I'm a fan of that one. But again, thank you so much. And obviously, you can watch right now. You can watch the Muppets Mayhem and Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus right now, and you can find the soundtrack to the Muppets Mayhem on all the different platforms, including Spotify, etc. Now, but again, thank you so much for taking your time out to speak to us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so lovely to talk to you and rock on. Rock
Thank
on
you.
audience. To you. Thank you so much, Roger.